This is Starting Point, a podcast that tracks Guyana's unprecedented growth from all vantage points. Join your hosts, Kiana Wilburg and Fareeza Haniff, as they dive deep into the heart of topical issues.
Hi there. Welcome to another episode of Starting Point. I'm Fareeza Haniff and I'm joined by Kiana Wilburg. I know it's been a while since we've had an episode, Kiana.
Right?
But we're back now.
Yes.
And I think our absence had to do with the fact that we were knee deep in election coverage.
That's right.
And now that it's finally over, I think we have a good handle of things as to why we're here now, and we can discuss our personal experience. For me, Kiana, I was working in the back end of things at the newsroom.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a bird's eye view of everything that has happened. What about you?
So I too worked on the back end of things. I was with Guyana Standard, and we were also ensuring that we provide coverage as much as possible regarding the elections, and it was quite an experience.
Yeah, and Kiana, I can say, now that it's finally over, I believe we both agree that this has been one of the most peaceful
Yes.
elections that we've
Yes.
had in Guyana's recent history.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
I think that we should commend the Guyanese people for their maturity
Mm-hmm.
and for keeping the peace, even in the face of some politicians and so-called activists who try to rile them up with a barrage of misinformation.
I agree with you. There was this fear, even in days leading up to the elections, because I can tell you there were many Guyanese who were panic shopping.
Yeah.
They were like, you know what, let me stock up on this and that, just in case you have some sort of issue. And it turned out to be a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, well, a lot of people are still traumatized from 2020. I mean, it's a word I love to use,
Yeah.
trauma associated with the 2020 elections. And the Friday just before the Monday of the elections, I too went to the supermarket, and the
See?
shelves were like, I went there not to panic shop, but because I really needed things. But the shelves were almost empty, and there were so many people there. But I also think that we should commend GCOM
Yes.
for executing the polls in an effective and efficient manner. And what I saw different this time around is that GCOM was able to respond to the misinformation with alacrity.
Mm-hmm.
That did not happen in 2020. A lot of information was allowed to go out in the public domain without being fact-checked by GCOM themselves. So that changed this time around, even during the very small recount process that we had, when some of the agents within the recount center tried to peddle that misinformation or disinformation on social media. And GCOM just went to say, hey, this is not true. This is what happened. And I think that helped in keeping people calm.
Yes. And one of the things that I also admired about this handling of the elections period was how the legislative reforms were able to turn many
Correct.
media houses into mini command centers. Because I'm sure at the newsroom, you guys were able to do your own tabulations,
Correct.
as we saw. And even at my end as well, at Guyana Standard, we were doing the tabulations because the process was made even more transparent with the uploading of the SOPs. I mean, by the following morning, after September 1, you had about 60% of the SOPs already uploaded on
GCOM's
site.
website. And I think the decision of the PPP back then to strengthen ROPA and to amend the legislation to mandate GCOM to make all SOPs public, and to have people consume that information themselves, do their own tabulation, remains in the best interest of this country, in the best interest of GCOM, and the best interest of the political parties who contested the elections. And it is for that very reason the newsroom was able to do its own tabulations and predict a massive victory for the PPP. And GCOM also moved with swiftness in getting all of their SOPs up and running.
Yes.
And I think the OAS also commended GCOM for that.
That's
the
right.
the Organization of American States, they were an accredited international observer for the elections. And after the polls, I just want to read a little paragraph of what they said. They said after the closing of polls and counting of votes, the OAS observers followed the ballot boxes and the statements of poll as they were transported to the returning officers and supernumerary returning offices to be scanned, published digitally for public access, and later tabulated. The OAS commends the authorities for introducing this requirement for the uploading and publication of the SOPs, which provides the public with an authentic image of the document and enhances the transparency of the tabulation process.
So, in keeping with the sentiment that many citizens felt, and even though GCOM took its time to ensure that all of the SOPs were uploaded, what it did was empowered the different members of the media, the representatives, to begin the tabulation process and to start to help in easing that anxiety. Because after the elections is held, the next thing people want to know is
The results.
the results.
And nobody wants to be reminded of Claremont Mingo and his spreadsheets.
Absolutely not. Oh my
Clearly
goodness.
not me.
Yeah.
But Kiana, now that all of this has happened, we've seen what the results are. What are your thoughts about APNU's performance?
Oh my goodness. I have so many thoughts.
Get right
So
into it.
I want to say that the APNU, and I'm sure many would agree, that their performance perhaps was the lowest in recent history. And what we saw from the competition posed by the We Invest in Nationhood Party, it spoke volumes. And one of the things that was mind-boggling to me was the extent to which WIN was able to creep into traditionally Afro-Guyanese communities that voted for the APNU or the PNC, whichever form they took in past elections. And I want to just mention some of these communities that I tabulated and looked at. I looked at Alboyston, I looked at Buxton, Agricola, Maka, and Sophia. In Alboyston, WIN was able to beat the APNU. When you tabulate the SOPs, WIN got 557 votes, while APNU got 453. Buxton.
This is in Alboyston.
Yes, this is in Alboyston. In Buxton, APNU made it out on top, but still, when you look at the numbers for WIN, it's astounding. And I just want to mention, APNU got 642 and WIN got 385. This is a 3-month-old party we're talking about that was able to come halfway, more than halfway, into a community that has traditionally voted for the APNU or the PNC rather. In Agricola, we saw a close contest. The APNU was barely ahead of WIN. APNU got 237 votes and WIN 223. And we also saw in Sophia that APNU and WIN, they were almost on par with each other. APNU got 1,882 votes, and WIN got 1,813 votes.
Wow.
So when you examine the inroads that WIN was able to make, it signals to me that, one, it is either the APNU failed to do its groundwork in these communities, it took its legacy votes for granted, or two, that these individuals were no longer voting along party lines and they wanted an alternative. They did not want to vote for the PPP, but they also no longer wanted to vote for the APNU. And of course, the AFC was out of the question. Where this
Some people say dead and buried now.
Yes. So for me, that was eye-opening. And I know, Fareeza, you also looked at some numbers too.
Yeah, so I think you focus on the communities that usually traditionally support the APNU, PNC. But I look at the broader region, like Region 7, Region 10, Region 4.
Oh,
the
my
most
goodness.
shocking of all.
Yes.
They lost their major constituencies. And I want to talk about the results, especially in Region 10. As always, Region 10 has been APNU PNC ground. That's where their massive rallies are held. And to know that they have lost this to win, it was really shocking. That was something I did not see coming.
Yes.
So they
Same.
got in the general elections, Win received 10,548 votes, and APNU received a mere 5,334, which is a major upset in these elections. Yeah, and in Region 4, as you know, always a PNC stronghold.
Yep.
APNU lost again, 46,949 votes, and Win got. Sorry, the PPP won this region with 87,538 votes. That's double. That's insane to believe. And Region 7 again, another stronghold of the APNU. They lost it. They got 983 votes, not even 1,000.
Wow.
And Win received 5,098. They won that region. And the PPP received 3,577.
My goodness. So the election results are indeed telling. But, as you noted, Fareeza, one of the things many individuals, observers, and those who always keep a bird's eye view of what's going on in the political landscape, no one expected the PNC-led APNU to lose the way it did. Many individuals expected the APNU to at the very least, retain its hold on the main opposition seat. And I believe that a number of things are responsible for that. I partly blame the former leader.
So we're talking about leadership.
Yes. I partly blame Mr. Granger for what has happened. He should have come out in full support, whether you do that verbally, whether you do that in written form, and to galvanize support for Mr. Norton. And so I believe that was one of the weaknesses. And I also believe that another weakness was the fact that they, as opposition, did not do their job as ferociously as they should have. And thirdly, another failing was that they took Win for granted. They underestimated Win. They underestimated Win because of the lack of political experience, of the sanctions facing Win, particularly the head of the party, Mr. Azruddin Mohammed. And they also took for granted the sanctions that came down via the local banking sector against about 70 of its members. And so I don't know why it did not signal to them that they needed to up their campaign on the Win party, because you saw that the incumbent was doing this. Why were you not paying attention to the PPP's playbook?
Yeah.
As a political scientist, you're seeing that the PPP is hammering this party.
They came out swinging from the inception.
Exactly. Why were you silent? And why did you wait until the last minute? Until
a week before,
a
right?
week before, a week or two before, to now start to say, okay, we voting for Win would not be in the country's best interest. It was a cry too late. So when you look at the impact of all of those things, among other factors, I believe that Norton really shot himself in the foot. And it's clear that not only the crossovers have said that his leadership is not one that is inclusive and could lead the country's future, but now you have the entire nation that has said resoundingly that we do not wish to have Mr. Norton not just lead our country, but we no longer believe in the strength of the APNU if he sits at the helm. And so there were many who started the call early on to say Mr. Norton ought to step down, not just from parliamentary representation, but from the leadership of the party. And so I saw in the news this morning that fresh blood is going to take over the parliamentary leadership, and that is expected to be businessman Terence Campbell. Of course, an official confirmation has to come where that is concerned. But that's what my understanding is. And I think that the right thing was done in that one, and just to step back a bit, one, I'm happy that good sense prevailed and Norton did not try to hold this country ransom or hostage, and that he conceded in some
Did he concede, or
in
did
some
he conceded but did not concede?
in some respect.
Right?
In some respect. I'm happy to see that, and I see now that good sense continues to prevail, and there's going to be some fresh talent or fresh blood
I think
trying
it's
to rebuild the image.
suffice to say that the crossovers have been vindicated,
Mm-hmm.
because Mr. Norton was saying that, we're not heard by them, we wouldn't be heard by them. They didn't add anything to the party.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here we are now. You're no longer in the opposition seat.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there were some people who felt some amount of empathy and sympathy for APNU. But I think what triggered me was when APNU requested recounts,
Oh my.
right?
Yeah.
In areas that there wasn't even a close enough runoff to say that, something could change here.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sent out a statement saying there's a slim pathway to victory. And they ended up losing more votes in the recounts
Mm-hmm.
for a sub-district of Region 4 and some of the ballot boxes in Region 5. And then when that didn't work out, you saw that they asked for a forensic audit and for the elections to be voided.
Oh,
All
my
of this
goodness,
just
yeah.
brought up bad memories from 2020, and people were like, here we go again. This is another effort to delay the declaration of the results. And again, on top of that, your nominated commissioners, opposition commissioners, did not show up at the first meeting that the chair called to certify the results and to make a declaration. Again, everybody started to say they're going down this path again. So whatever sympathy people felt, I think that would have washed away by then.
I can tell you, I was one who felt sympathy. I was sympathetic for the extent of the loss. I even attended the vice president's press conference, and I asked him, I know that on the campaign trail, he has said, even though sarcastically, that Mr. Norton is his friend. And I mean, it can't be anything easy to watch a political opponent
Fall from grace.
To such an extent. And even the vice president said, it is, he is sorry to see what has happened to Mr. Norton, but all is not lost. He can still, if he plays his cards right, he could go back to the drawing board and
I
rebuild.
want to come back to something that you mentioned about Mr. Campbell leading the parliamentary team in the National Assembly. If that turns out to be true, one of the first things that comes to mind, why Terrence Campbell? What happened to Jurita Finance? What happened to Ganesh Mahipal? I don't think Mr. Campbell is a member of the PNC.
Not that I'm aware, but I know
Right.
that he's on the
The
list,
list,
of course.
right. So, I mean, he was one of the consensus candidates that they had put forward to be a presidential candidate in the elections. But we know what happened there. And that did not materialize. So why him to lead? Is there no one else within the APNU who can do that?
I think that's one of the questions Norton or whoever he chooses will have to answer. I think perhaps, and I don't want to...
Was it just Mr. Norton who selected Mr. Campbell, or was this a unanimous decision of the executive? Like, those are questions that need to be answered.
Correct.
And would that cause more internal conflict within the APNU?
I understand, and
To
it
choose
is a
someone
valid...
who has not been fighting with the party for how many, the PNC is how many years old?
over
Right.
50 years,
Right.
over 50 years old.
So now you have a newcomer to lead them in the National Assembly.
Those are questions for him to indeed
I find
answer.
it interesting, and I would like to know what's the thought process behind that.
Yes, I would like that too. And I know the
Not-
nation is really interested in
Right.
hearing what was the decision, or what were the factors that prompted bypassing experienced political and parliamentary representatives for Mr. Campbell to sit at the helm.
Correct. Not to diminish his capabilities and his intellect, but like, what's the thought? Indeed, what's the thought process? How did we get to him and not anyone else?
And not a Jaretha or a Ganesh Mahipal or even Roysdale Ford.
Yes, I don't hear him being mentioned at all as getting back a seat in the National Assembly. I saw a preliminary list and I did not see his name there. I saw Dexter Todd though. So it's interesting to see how those seats will be taken up in the National Assembly for APNU.
Interesting times ahead indeed. And one of the things that, really struck me in the elections was the performance of the AFC. That
Do we need to talk about that?
Oh my goodness. I suppose as an honorable mention. As an honorable mention. The extent to which the APNU performed, there is room for a comeback.
Correct.
They can re-strategize. I don't know how you come back from where the AFC is. I think it's really going to take going back to the beginning of things, getting fresh faces to represent the party and really starting from scratch.
But, since we're on AFC, we're going to go there. I don't recall seeing much of David Patterson and Kemraj Ramjatan on the campaign trail for the AFC. They're strong politicians. And in 2015, they got the attention of this country. They got the attention of youths, and people looked up to them and say, you know what, you guys could make a difference. And that's how they ended up there. And then they disappeared after 2020. We saw some of them in Parliament, and when they decided to participate. And then on the campaign trail, they just evaporated. I don't know if I missed them at any events. The most I saw was with Devon Sears. I saw with Nigel Hughes.
Right.
I saw Kathy. Nobody else that I could remember. I would remember David and Kemraj.
Yes, they have the most work to do.
Yeah.
But I know that earlier in some of our episodes, we did examine the manifesto of the Forward Guyana movement, and we did see a number of weaknesses which we identified and a number of strong points too. But the performance of Amanza's party was definitely a vindication of her decision to step out as a woman. Congratulations to her.
Definitely.
Kudos to her.
Kudos to Amanza. Honorable mention indeed. One of my colleagues in the media, when we were doing our tabulations, she said, wait, man, Forward Guyana did not contest in all the regions, but still get more votes than AFC.
Yes, and that's a testament to her political currency.
Correct. And now she has a seat in the National Assembly.
So we have interesting times ahead in the National Assembly. This is going to be one for the history books, because we will have at the helm of the political opposition, the parliamentary opposition rather, U.S. sanctioned businessman.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yes, and the charges which are against him and how the cases will be done. And it's going to be interesting as well to see the sort of relationship that the new opposition force will have with the GCOM commissioners, particularly those who have been known in the public domain to represent the interests of the political opposition. And they, of course, would not be able to make any changes where that is concerned,
because they're constitutional office holders, and you just can't remove them just like that.
That is correct.
So I think a lot of people are asking this question on social media: will Win have a rep at GCOM? But I think we need someone with that knowledge to explain how this works. But what we can safely say is that you cannot remove someone from a constitutional
that is correct
position. They were constitutionally appointed. So Mr. Alexander, Desmond Trotman, and Charles Corbin will be there for quite some time.
Yes, and
Yeah.
they will have to interface at some point in time with the leader of the We Invest in Nationhood
And
Party,
Amanzo.
as well as Amanza, and represent their interests
Correct.
as well on the commission. So interesting times ahead. But Fareeza, I know we've spoken a lot about our observations on the elections results. And I know at some point in time we will have another discussion on the way forward for GCOM, because with such a performance, they now have to take it a step higher
Of course.
for
There's
2030.
there's still some flaws there that
Yes.
they need to rectify. It's a
Absolutely.
work in progress.
Absolutely. But following that, we had the inauguration of the ninth executive president.
For a second term.
Yes, for a second term, the Honorable Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali. And
Before you go on, Kiana, I just want to say that the president got his swearing in and inauguration that he did not get to have in 2020.
yes.
So he went all out this time around. And I think that the fact that he allowed this ceremony to include people from all walks of life to be able to witness it in flesh is something that was amazing to see. Thousands of people at the president's official residence, State House, on inauguration day, swearing in day, standing there and being able to see him and be able to reap the benefits of all the hard work. I think that was quite commendable.
Indeed. Now, his inauguration address, it held so many important points. And there was one that really stood out for me. There were many, but the one that I really want to talk about is the plans over the next 5 years to strengthen the economy and to reinforce that Guyana is not a one sector. It's not going to be a one sector driven economy. We are going to utilize our oil and gas resources to strengthen traditional sectors and to also create new growth poles. And I want to remind of what those new growth poles are. World-class tourism, a thriving blue economy, and building out a competitive manufacturing sector that is buttressed by cutting-edge information and communications technology and dynamic knowledge-based industries. And I believe that having this mindset to say, this is the direction, and this is not something novel. He has said this over the 5 years of his first term, and we have seen the foundation set. And the message was clear. We are going to ensure that there is continuity from the first term into the second term. And one of the other things I think needs to be commended is how the oil and gas resources will be leveraged to ensure that a number of things are taking place. And I want to remind of what these are. The president spoke about a brand new Berbice River Bridge, a bridge across the Quarantine River. And I want to take a moment to pause on those two things, because when we have these types of infrastructure, it opens up access to new markets. So it's one thing to talk about increasing agricultural production and increasing the production that will come from resources, from byproducts from the gas resource that we will monetize. But where are they going to go? So the foundation is being set. The infrastructural framework is being put in place to ensure that those individuals who will be within these sectors, they will have markets to access and nearby markets to access. And these types of infrastructure also, it strengthen our abilities to have greater partnerships with these countries. So I'm excited to see what new growth poles these two pieces of infrastructure will lead us to. Another important point that the president said we can look forward to over the next 5 years is a second gas to energy plant but in Region 6.
Mm.
And so, what does that say? We have our Wales Gas to Energy project that is in Region 3. And now the second one is going to Region 6. And so you see the clear vision to move the oil and gas resources and development from being centralized in Georgetown. So not only will the city be known as the capital, but we're also we're moving that capital into other aspects of the country so that persons
Other regions of the country.
in other
Region
regions
6
of
is
the,
a huge
they don't
region
feel
too.
the need
Right.
to come to Georgetown in order to benefit from the the benefits of the oil and gas sector. So I really thought that was an important one. The establishment of an economic zone in Berbice, as well as the construction of a deep water harbor. My goodness, this is so necessary. And the expansion of the Demerara Harbor Bridge. What I also appreciate is that the president noted that we can expect the digital backbone of this country to be strengthened. And that is ever so necessary as we continue.
I think he has started on that already.
That's correct.
Earlier this week, he would have met with the banks and he would have met with all of the head of the IT departments in the ministries and government agencies to get a sense of what they do and what he wants them to do going forward. So he has started discussions on that digital backbone.
Yes, and I am excited to see how that manifests over the next 5 years. And finally, Fareeza, on this point, a fertilizer and natural gas plants. Those will be making its way into Guyana in the next 5 years to really help us realize our dream of becoming an industrial powerhouse. And this is important because we cannot expect oil and gas to last forever and to continue to expect handouts or to continue to expect cash transfers. We have to start thinking, how do we build a post-oil economy? It cannot start when we have already gone off of the cream of the curve for the oil and gas resources. We have to start now. And I hope that people really understand how important this is, what this signals, that we're starting now. We're not waiting until 10 FPSOs are in play or 7 FPSOs are in production. Guyana is starting this today. And I really hope that people get the gravity, the profoundness of how important that is and what it signals about the leadership that we can expect over the next 5 years and in the second term of President Ali.
You briefly mentioned cash handouts and transfers. And I just want to remind that the president promised a cash grant or cash transfer by Christmas.
Yes.
If the people behave, then I think it's safe to say that they've behaved, Mr. President. Just a gentle reminder.
Yes, indeed. And the cash transfers are indeed important, and we've seen the calculated and strategic way that they've been done. And I know that is going to continue, as we've seen from the manifesto.
Kiana, the president also spoke about home ownership and bringing families closer together. I think that's important. Owning your own house and your land is something that Guyanese take pride in. And I like the fact that this will just be ramped up in the next 5 years. And he also spoke about world-class health and education. We're going to see the government is expected to establish 200 medical and engineering seats in regions 2, 3, 6, and 9. So it's going to be easier for persons to equip themselves with skills in these areas. I think that's severely lacking. We have our labor shortage issue. So this will definitely aid in that aspect. So the housing is one of the big things for me. And the next one is the anti-corruption unit that he spoke about.
Yes.
So maybe you can delve into that a little bit and tell us what you think.
Oh my goodness. I think that is so important because we do not live in a vacuum or in a bubble. We are aware that there are challenges in the procurement system. And I think the commitment to say that we will establish a dedicated anti-corruption unit is the first step in addressing this cancer and ensuring that institutions feel empowered, that when wrongs are committed, there is going to be a police to ensure that these issues are addressed. And one of the other things that I also admired where this is concerned was where the president mentioned that every official will be required to account for their personal assets. And if they can't, they will be dealt with by the full force of the law. I thought that that was very important. We do have the Integrity Commission, but hearing this reinforced, I think it spells well for the kind of leadership we can expect. And it says a lot about the high standard, the high bar that is being set for this second term.
Yeah, definitely a lot of work, and I think he said it before, that this next term there will be no vacations, no holidays, that everyone will be working around the clock, and I think we can see that happening already. A lot of people pointed out in the first term that, Mr. President, how do you do it? You're always on the go. You always have your ministers on the go. Do you take any time to rest? Can you imagine what's going to happen in the next 5 years?
Oh my, yes.
Yes.
Yes. We're expected to see results. So interesting time ahead. I think, Fareeza, we can wrap up because this week there are going to be some other interesting topics that you
will have to definitely discuss
return
separately.
to. One of the highly anticipated events is the appointment of the president's full cabinet.
Correct.
And I believe that that is going to be a focus for our next episode and what we can expect from these individuals.
Perhaps we'll be seeing some new faces.
Yes, indeed. So that's also one to look forward to.
Definitely.
So I think we have covered quite a lot.
Quite a lot today, a lot to talk about. It was nice to get some of those things off your chest, I assume.
Yeah. Yeah, it was indeed. It was. And, I know that our audience is going to really appreciate the observations that we shared. I'm sure that they share some of these sentiments. And so we are excited to see how things unfold in this country and to bring you more insights, not just from ourselves, but some of the political movers and shakers, as well as the stakeholders within our business communities. So a lot of information will be coming your way. And thank you for joining us. As always, I am Kiana Wilburg.
And I'm Fareeza Haniff.
Thank you and see you next time.
Thanks for watching Starting Point. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn for critical updates and exclusive content.